first recipe is going to be a King Ranch mac and cheese. It's got all kinds of stuff in it that I have on hand, so I thought it'd be perfect. I needed to use up some chicken, and I've also got pasta, and I've got an onion in the fridge that I need to use up, so this is going to be perfect. I have everything. I don't have to buy anything for it, so I'm going to make this. So I've got some pasta here. I'm using some small shells. And then I've got 2 tablespoons of butter, and I've got 1 pepper and 1 onion, and I'm just going to cook that. It says to cook them together and saute 5 minutes or until tender. Okay, and I'm also going to add about 8 ounces of Velveeta, and I'm going to melt that in with the vegetables and stir that around until it gets all combined together. Okay, I have added a 1/2 cup of sour cream, a can of cream of chicken soup. I'm going to mix that together. And I'm also going to add my chicken. The recipe calls for 3 cups. I don't know how much is in here, but it is probably about 2 cups. So I'm just going to mix this all together. It also calls for a teaspoon of chili powder and a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. But I am just going to go really easy on these spices. I think we don't like a whole lot of cumin, so I am just going to go lightly with the spices. All right, I'm just going to mix this together, and then we'll assemble our casserole. All right, y'all. I think the proportions are off on this recipe because it only calls for 1/2 of a package of pasta, but it made way too much sauce. So what I did was I just mixed it with the sauce right here, mixed the noodles with that, and I'm gonna have a lot left over. So make sure you use about a box of that pasta. But since I only used 1/2, I am gonna make just a small casserole dish instead of a big one. But this stuff is amazing, and I am going to put this over some tortilla or some crunchy tortillas, and we are going to have some nachos. It tastes just like a delicious queso dip, so I will definitely be using this today for some nachos. All right, I've got some shredded cheese here, and I'm going to put that over the top. So definitely make the whole box of pasta. And I did undercook the noodles just a little bit because it says to bake for 25 to 30 minutes. You want everything nice and hot and bubbly. This is one of the recipes. It is a pineapple casserole, and I am going out of my comfort zone here because I hope I'm going to like this. I've always heard about it. I've always heard everybody rave about it, but I've never made it because it has cheese and pineapple in it. So I am going to try this and see how it is. So I've got 1 can of pineapple. I used just a little bit of it for something, and I left it in the fridge, and I'm like, that would be perfect to use that up in this casserole. So I've got a can of pineapple. I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of sugar, and I've got 1 tablespoon of flour. And I've also got a cup of cheese. So we're going to see how this tastes. But I'm going to mix up the flour and the sugar in the pineapple. And now I'm also going to add the cheese. The recipe wants you to layer it, but I want to mix that sugar and flour in together. I don't want to have separate layers because I think it would be better this way. But you can go exactly by the recipe if you would like. But I don't usually go by the exact recipe. And also, this recipe calls for a sleeve of Ritz crackers. And sadly, I did not have that. But I have these buttery crackers that I crushed up. And I am adding it to a stick of butter that I melted. So I'm going to get these crackers mixed up into the butter. And then we'll assemble this casserole. All right, I sprayed my pan, my baking dish, and I've got my pineapple cheese mixture. Now I am going to lay over the buttery crackers. All right, I'm going to pop this in the oven. It said 300 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes. All right, y'all, just look at that. Does it not look good? The smells just smells delicious too. And there is the pineapple casserole. Can't wait to dig into that too. This was delicious, y'all. You've got to make this. This is one of the best macaroni and cheese I've ever had. So I recommend it. 10 out of 10. All right, let's try the pineapple casserole. I think I'm going to try it warm and then I'm going to try it at room temperature, but I cannot wait any longer. I'm going to put this on my plate with my mac and cheese. All right, this next one is going to be a cabbage casserole. So I've got 1 onion, 1 green pepper here chopped up, and the recipe calls for 1 pound of ground beef, but I'm just using 1/2. And I'm going to brown this and get the onions and the peppers cooked. Okay, and while the ground beef is cooking, I am adding some cabbage. I'm not measuring, I am just measuring with my heart, but I'll have the recipe link down below in the description box. I've made this a few times. It's not in a recipe book, but my grandmother used to make this all the time for church, so that's why I'm sharing this recipe. It's really delicious. So I'm gonna let this cook for just a few minutes and then we'll put it in our casserole dish. Okay, she usually added cheese, like shredded cheese, but since I have this sliced cheese, I'm going to go ahead and add that to get that used up. I've got about 1/2 block of cream cheese, and I'm also going to add maybe just a couple tablespoons of 1/2 and 1/2. I'm going to just let that melt, and then I will put it in our baking pan. Okay, I added salt and pepper to it as well. Just taste it to see if it needs any more salt. And you can add any kind of seasonings you like, but this is the way we like it. And I also put some panko breadcrumbs over the top, and I'm going to spray it with some avocado oil and put it in the oven at 350 until the top's brown and it's nice and bubbly. All right, the cabbage casserole is out of the oven. This is so good. And if you just want to have a vegetable, you don't have to put the ground beef in there. I've made it without and with, and it's still good. So I hope you try this. This is so good. This is one of our favorite casseroles and a great casserole to take to a potluck. And if you love cabbage like we do, I know you'll like it. So I hope you enjoyed all 3 of these recipes. They're so good. We fell in love with that macaroni and cheese, and that pineapple cheese cracker concoction is one of the best things ever. So I love all 3 of these, and all 3 of these are winners. So I'll have the recipes down below in the description box, and let me know if you try them, and I'll see y'all in the next video.